What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to Johnny Lawrence Gaming. This video is going to be a lot different than the stuff I usually work on. I'm actually going to take a look back at the past of this game and see where the future's going. What we've been through and experienced together on this game, the disastrous dev stream and the fallout from that, and what lies ahead. We're going to hit on all of that. So stay tuned and make sure to hit that like button for me. It really helps me out. Subscribe if you haven't already. That also helps out. You can catch more of my content that way, and I'm glad to have you join the channel. We'll start out here by talking about the early days of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Some of us remember that if you've been around as long as I have since the launch, and things were really pretty wild. People were just trying to figure out the maps. There wasn't a whole lot of established metas in those first early days. It didn't take long though, and people started figuring out some of the good builds and good strats and how to take advantage of certain things. But let's kind of walk through some of the stuff that we have seen change and what some of the stuff the developers changed, some things that the players just figured out how to do and take advantage of. No Bubba. That was probably the biggest change I think the game may have made up until now. As you know, when it started out, you had to have a Leatherface in there. The game just would not start until someone chose Leatherface, and a lot of players were stubborn. They would just stay on Cook or Johnny or whoever, and the game would just never start. Remember lots of chats saying someone pick Leatherface, we just want to play. I, for one, love Leatherface, so I mean, I would always just pick him so the game would start, even if I had to use Leatherface quite a bit in a row, quite a bit of games in a row. Many players didn't want to play Leatherface in those early days back then because, let's be honest, you could really get bullied down there. There was infinite bone scraps, door slams that just could go on forever. There wasn't a cooldown on a lot of things, so it could get pretty rough if you were playing with a bully squad down there. The infinite bone scraps really is something that needed to change. A lot of people were kind of upset about that when they first did it, but it really needed to be done. If you got hit in the wrong, got stuck in the wrong place with Bubba, and someone was right by a bone scrap pile, then it could just go on forever. So that was also a good change that was made. When the game was at its peak, there was a lot of debates and arguments on Reddit or different forums about family mains versus victim mains and what nerfs were good, what buffs were bad, etc., etc. Leland and Connie probably was the most controversial ones. Leland having his barge cooldown expanded, and Connie the same with her lockpick ability. It really changed a lot because Leland could just run like buck wild even more than he does already, which Leland is a pretty strong character in the game. And Connie could just keep breaking through everything really quickly. So those are changes that probably needed to be made. I think that was the right decision. Some things did escape the developers and took a while to fix. They eventually got it though. One of the main parts was the safe car on gas station. As you remember, there was an old beat up shell of a car just off in the corner there in the high grass, and you could literally just get in there and stay in it the whole game. You could just kind of hold someone hostage for the family. It was just a kind of a design flaw that it took them a while to fix, but they did eventually fix it. But boy, did they take advantage of it while it was there. I can just remember all the time players getting inside of that. Even some of my friends that I played with would just use and abuse that. It was just basically like a safe car. Just get in there. No one could get in there. It was a bad day. But it's gone, fixed. It's been fixed for quite some time now. Also on the gas station, there was the smokehouse exit. It was very easy, and it was just basically unstoppable for Connie if you knew what you were doing and things weren't going well for the family. You could just once you were inside the generator pen, you could go through there, bust that lock, and you were out the door, and so was most of your teammates. So you really had to guard that side heavily. And since then, they've placed a gate that has made it basically another layer of lock for you to get through, which was a really good change. I know a lot of victim mains didn't like it because it took away their easy escape. I mean, I took advantage of it too. I mean, you were silly not to. It's in the game. But that was another change that was made. Additionally, another change that was made, which was quite a big one, We all remember this one, the old valve in the basement on Slaughterhouse. That was terrible. If you're a victim, you could, once you got that valve, you could just go down there and it just totally ruin any kind of a semblance of plan that the family had. Because essentially, as family, you had to keep someone down there watching it. So then that left two people up top to defend everything else. And it was very difficult. It was a really bad place for the valve. And to the developers' credit, they eventually, although it did take a while, I'm not sure exactly how long, but they did fix it and change that and put it up top. But wow, we remember that. That was just abused like crazy. As I recall, there was actually a really bad bug too with Johnny, where you would get, if you were in a close encounter and you got stabbed in the back at the same time, then Johnny would be unable to perform any interactions. He couldn't swing his weapon. He could essentially just walk around, and he was useless. And that happened to me so many times down there watching that valve once they would do that in the basement. So when that thing was gone, I was very happy. That was that was a great day to see that go away. Now this change is a little controversial. You can leave me a comment, tell me what you think about this down there when you're watching this video. But we're going to talk about the choose flight nerf. As we know, it started out with 3 charges that were 3 full charges, so it really allowed you a lot more flexibility to run and get away. But now it's gone. It's not gone. The perk itself is still there. However, instead of getting 3 full charges, you get half a charge. You basically get a full charge on level 3, and it can still be useful, but it's really not the meta like it used to be because everybody used to run it. Now, where I think we get into the controversy is once you have taken that away, did that help lead to the grapple mania that we see so often now, where it's just people just want to they just want to grapple you every chance they can? Now, I'm going to get into some of the changes that are coming with that may change and tweak it some. Maybe not the all around the best thing they could do to change the grapple mania and get that out of the game, but victims felt like they couldn't run, so they're going to fight. And so that's what we got. Should that have changed, or should it not have changed? Should they left choose flight alone with 3 full charges? I think it's an interesting question. Leave me a comment down below. I can remember personally playing so many games when the game came out where no one would wake up Grandpa very quickly. It didn't seem like a very good idea. You wanted to get what you needed and get a good start. But since then, the rush meta came in. I mean, it wasn't very long. It was pretty quickly. But the rush meta seems to be the thing now. It's just probably the most effective way to play. Just wake up Grandpa quickly and try to get your stuff and just keep moving. It can backfire. I play a lot of family, and the rush definitely can backfire. We kill a lot of people that way. And moving on to another thing, which has never been fixed since the game came out. This has never been fixed. And it's the broken party system. And my God, is it frustrating. You can party up with your friends, someone gets disconnected, or you're playing victim and you don't want to, you get killed, you want to back out. You got to restart your game. And it's really frustrating. And I think that may lead to the bigger issue of why the developers can't add like unlockables. I think the code is just so unstable that they built this game on that they can't even fix the party system. And here we are in 2024. It's every game has a party system that isn't broken like this. Again, leave a comment. Let's hear your thoughts. All right, let's touch on some other things we've seen change a lot. The Cook's Infinite Ping. I used a lot of Cook during a long time of this game, and I could just track you forever once you could highlight them. And they finally fixed that to where it's probably more reasonable. It's in a good spot now. Johnny changes have been he was nerfed and he was buffed and he was nerfed again. Johnny seems to be right where he belongs now, but that was gone through quite a bit. We all remember Sonny always dying in the cutscene. It was like a joke. You could just it seemed like the game starts, no one's got Sonny, Sonny's dead. Then we entered Danny into the fray. Danny and Nancy came in together. And Danny was just broken. He dominated. He couldn't be stopped. I got so many easy escapes for myself and my teammates just tampering. It was so easy. They made some changes to him. Danny's not nearly the mastermind he is. He's still a good character, but he's not unstoppable like he was. Nancy comes in the game at the same time. she probably could use some buffs. Let's be honest, I don't see her a lot. She can still be useful for the good player, knows what they're doing with her. But ultimately, she probably needs to have some changes done. Virginia has came in the game about the same time the mill was introduced, and she was. I wouldn't say she's great, but I've really gotten good with her as I've learned to use her more. And there are some really good Virginia players out there that will just make life hell. Her powder can be come in and clutch it so many times, and she can be a real nuisance, especially with some good players using her. So overall, she was a good addition. Hands and Maria came into the game at the same time, and the game was really thriving at that point. I felt like the best time to be playing. Hands was a complete counter to Danny, and people hated playing against Danny. Let's be honest. And Hands has really changed that. You see Danny in the game, you can always get him, and you can really counter a lot of the things that the victims like to do. And I think it brought a lot of balance. Uh, Marie, on the other hand, I'm not a big fan of her. She's okay. Her ability isn't that great. I think doing something else with her would have probably been better for someone who's supposed to be kind of the star of the show. I guess you could say the whole story was built around her. But she does have some decent perks. It's not all bad. Since the game has came out, they have only given us 2 new maps. Perhaps we should have had more. That would have been nice. But what we do have is Nancy's house and the abandoned mill. Nancy's house I really like. It's pretty balanced. Seems to be kind of fair for both sides. Then we have the abandoned mill, which might be a little victim-sided, but if you have a good team when you're using comms, you can get past that. Especially with Hands, he is great on abandoned mill. It really stops a lot of those fuse box stuff they like to do. And as you know, the valve is no longer upstairs. It used to be one of the places that would spawn. It can make for quite a bit of problems for the family, and they have changed it. And that was a good change. But still, pretty good maps. No problem with those at all. I think Abandoned Mill has probably the worst basement. I just have never been a big fan of that basement structure. Just not something I like that much. But once you learn it, it's not that bad. I've heard others say, and I totally agree, that the game was in a good state when it was family mains arguing against victim mains. Boy, do I miss those times, don't we all? And you just basically arguing over, was Hands overpowered? Should Hands be buffed? Or not buffed, but nerfed, of course. No one really thinks he needs a buff. But they left him alone. They did not nerf Hands' Ripstall ability, which I think was a good decision. But those were you knew the game was in a good state when players were just arguing over those kind of things. And since then, I think all the family mains and victim mains have kind of joined forces and just taking on the developers. Just so upset with so many things, especially when it came out in the most recent dev stream that we're going to touch on here towards the end of this video. I tried to touch on everything that transpired on this game since it came out up until about the midpoint. But I'd love to hear your comments and feedback. I'm sure I've missed some things. So do that below. We can continue this, and I'd love to hear from you guys. There's a lot to talk about this game, a lot of debates. And I think that's probably one of the sadder parts, because this game has such a passionate fan base. The game itself is so much more diverse than like Dead by Daylight or Killer Clowns. I feel like it's got such potential. It always has. And I just feel like it's not really getting what it deserves, whether that's mostly from the development team. Just for whatever reasons, we're going to get into that more. But yeah, again, leave a comment. Love to hear from you. We have to mention the Blood Moon map. I was pretty excited when it came out. Just wanted to see what it looked like, and it was very different. It was kind of infrared. A lot of people complained that it hurt their eyes. There were some bugs with it where you could constantly see people moving upstairs even if you weren't anywhere around them. When you're outside, a lot of people complained you couldn't see anything as far as like where players were, so it was something. I generally did pretty good on it. It's family house, so if you're a good family player, then it's hard not to do that good, no matter what the screen looks like. But yeah, that was kind of I think we were kind of hoping for more for the anniversary. It was something, I'll say that. Then we also got the museum mode. And I do remember some people were excited for that. I didn't really understand why. I know Friday the 13th had like the virtual cabin, and that was kind of cool. I think I looked at it for a few minutes, even though I'm a huge Friday the 13th fan of the movies. I thought it was kind of neat, but it wasn't anything that special. And to be quite honest, I think I spent a few seconds on the museum mode for this game. I really couldn't care less for it. It just wasn't something that got me excited. It didn't get my juices flowing. Maybe you did, and that's great. I guess more content's never really a bad thing, and it didn't cost anything, so there's that side of it. If they wanted to add it, that's fine. It just wasn't something that got me pumped up. Just wasn't. Now, most of you are probably, I don't know if most of you are level 99 or not that are watching this video. I know I have been for some time, but now we're going to transition here and we're going to talk about the more recent developments. Now, as you know, developers had a stream, or maybe you didn't hear, but they did. And if you have watched or heard it and you're a passionate player of this game, you are probably not happy, and understandably so. They kind of just spent, it felt like 2 hours basically just ending your hopes and crushing your dreams of what you hoped that was coming to this game. Uh, Chop Top, they were like, yep, not gonna happen. Oh yeah, let's talk about player level cap. Yeah, that's not gonna happen either. You're not gonna get any of the things that you're hoping for this game. That was kind of even touched on. They mentioned the level cap raise quite a while back, and it never happened. At least they told us it's not gonna happen. As far as no Chop Top, I mean, I don't think Chop Top's like a horror icon, and they went into the reasons behind it as far as legalities and negotiations with the rights holders. So I mean, I'm willing to give them a pass for that because if someone owns the property and they don't want to loan it to you for your use, that's fine. It seems like a bad business decision more than anything because I don't see Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 as being some kind of movie that's still very much in the public eye, and it's not iconic by any means. I mean, I personally think it's pretty decent, but it didn't make any sense to me why they wouldn't want to make money off a virtually dead product. It still doesn't make any sense, but it's theirs. If they don't want to make money off of it, that's fine. Leave a comment as to what you think the reason for this might be. Be interested to hear why you think the talks fell out on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 coming to it. But then we got the level cap raise, or we're not going to see it. And to me, this is the biggest disappointment of all because the reason they gave was it took too much work, it took too much time, laziness. That's what I came away from, just pure laziness. If you have to just assign one person to that, and if it takes 6 months, I don't care, but get that done. Every good game out there that keeps players retained has this system in place. For God's sake, work on that. Change it. Fix it. Do what's necessary. There's really no excuse other than laziness. You're telling me it's going to take too long? I say maybe it's because they're not going to make money off of it. They'd rather just keep charging us for skins, content passes that we have no idea what's going to be in them. It's really something that just has to change. They gotta get that done. Now let's talk more about what we think is going to happen. The future of the game. If it were me, you're not going to get Chop Top. You're obviously not going to get Stretch or any of those people from Texas Chainsaw 2. You got to bring in Sheriff Hoyt. You got to get Jessica Biel. You got to be creative. If that means that you're putting people in Halloween, like you're putting people in Halloween costumes, you're putting the girls in bikinis. If you're putting Leland in a Speedo like Chad from Friday the 13th, you got to do it. You got to do something. You're not going to give us a level cap, then you need to just break everything down and just abandon the whole. This is 1974. Get creative. I mean, for goodness sake, you got to do something. And if they're going to be that rigid, I don't see a very good future ahead. They really need to think about if they want this game to last. And some people say that they're just trying to sunset the game. That they're just gonna grab some money while they can and just watch it go away. And I hope that is not the case. I really am rooting for this game. I love it. I still play it. I'm gonna keep playing it. I just like it. So I'm not trying to just crap on these guys. Just to the developers' credit, they had a great idea. They implemented a lot of fun elements to a game that I've enjoyed since it came out, even with the ups and downs. So I hope that the sound minds will come together and say, look, we gotta go in a different direction here. The community is really not happy, and that's the biggest thing. But hey, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.